Why do so many of us still feel lost and emotionally overwhelmed, even while living in the most advanced era in history, at the peak of technology, surrounded by information and resources? Why have anxiety, depression, and a silent emptiness replaced fulfillment? For most, this feels like a personal imbalance, but for the chosen ones, it's the first sign they were never meant to belong to this world. If you've ever felt that something's wrong, not with you, but with everything around you, maybe it's because the reality sold to you by modern society is nothing but a vibrational theater. In other words, a great lie, an illusory field built to keep consciousness asleep. This prison has a name, the Matrix, a vibrational system of consciousness control. And if you've made it here, know this: nothing is by chance. This is the video that will open your eyes as a chosen one, forever. We're going to dissect and reveal the entire structure of the system, and by the end, show you the only way out of this prison. If you feel like you don't belong in this world, but you have a mission, comment, "I know I was sent." The great illusion of the Matrix and its feeding system. They told us we were evolving, that technology would solve all our problems, that more information, more speed, and more productivity would bring more happiness. But meanwhile, smiles have become forced, and relationships shallow. Behind the promise of progress, there's an invisible trap. Modern life didn't free us. It numbed us. The Matrix didn't start with machines. It started with ideas. And the chosen ones have always been a special target of the Matrix. Today, we're encouraged to produce non-stop, consume without questioning, and compete with everyone, including ourselves. We work to buy things we don't need, to impress people we don't even know, trying to fill a void that never goes away. The system runs like a clock, and you're expected to keep up, even if it drains you from the inside. This pressure to perform isn't freedom, it's programming. That constant feeling of not being enough, of always owing something. It's one of the central gears of the Matrix. The world has been turned into an endless treadmill. The more you run, the more it feels like you're standing still. Time is sold, energy is drained, meaning is lost. And the saddest part, all of this is sold to you as normal life. But a chosen one senses something is wrong, even without knowing exactly what. The Matrix doesn't feed on your labor. It feeds on your emotional energy. Fear, anxiety, grief, temporary euphoria. All of it is converted into frequency. What you feel becomes fuel for something you can't see. But it governs the vibrational structure of this reality. We exist in a field that responds to our vibration, yet it was designed to keep our frequency low. And this affects chosen ones the most, because they came here to live on higher frequencies. This system is intelligent. It knows that emotional pain generates intense energy. That's why we're constantly pushed to suffer, to desire, to fear. Chi, our vital life force, is the spiritual gold of the Matrix, and entities that operate in denser realms, like the umbral plane, have learned to capture this energy. It's not forced theft. It's a consented extraction, disguised as routine, drama, distraction. We can understand this dynamic as spiritual or purely physical. Just as our world has physics, math, chemistry, and laws, denser dimensions do too. Just like we manipulate atoms to harness nuclear energy, negative beings from other planes manipulate the emotional energy generated through the Matrix. Everything is connected, and whether we believe in this holistic view or not, it doesn't matter. It still exists. You work, argue, get frustrated, fall in love, get heartbroken. Every emotional spike, every moment of joy or pain releases energy, and the Matrix absorbs it. not through wires or chips, but through frequency. You emit, it receives. This prison has no bars. It stays intact because you vibrate within it. And as long as a chosen one believes this is real life, they'll keep feeding the system with their own light. Maybe you believe you're building your future, that if you work hard now, things will eventually get better. But what if you're just spinning inside a cage? The Matrix gave us a poisoned gift, linear time. Past, present, and future seem to follow a natural sequence. But that's one of the greatest illusions. Time, as we perceive it, is a grid that anchors consciousness. Everything is programmed to make you chase the later. Work now, suffer now, sacrifice now. So maybe, just maybe, you'll find peace later. But that later never comes. Because the Matrix resets the game over and over. It creates distractions, interruptions, crises. It doesn't want you to stop and feel the now, because the now is where your power to awaken lives. When you accept the idea that you need a better tomorrow, you deny your present moment. They planted a seed of dissatisfaction, and you welcomed it with open arms. Some ancient tribal civilizations lived in harmony with natural cycles and had a completely different perception of time. They knew that time was spiral, alive, connected to the movement of the stars and the soul. But that wisdom was silenced. The Matrix had to disconnect us from real time, sacred time, and the idea of releasing the interests of the ego. And so it created artificial urgency, a constant feeling of being late. The chosen one feels this forced acceleration as a kind of background noise, because deep down, they remember how time felt before it was corrupted, dissecting the deception from the inside out. Most people still believe that control comes from the outside, that there's an authoritarian system oppressing the people, manipulating society with visible hands. But the truth is more subtle and far more dangerous. The Matrix operates inside you. It's in your limited senses, in the beliefs you've never questioned, in the desires that aren't even yours. The programming doesn't come from the outside in. It's already coded within you. Chosen one. From birth, we are molded to obey without realizing it. Our thoughts are pre-formatted, our feelings guided by invisible archetypes. The subconscious is like a software filled with inherited patterns, collective trauma, and automatic responses. The Matrix uses this as a method of silent control. The human being becomes a conditioned reflection and still believes they are free. The human body is an energetic antenna, receiving and transmitting constantly. But it was intentionally designed to only perceive a narrow range of reality. We see less than 1% of the light spectrum. We hear only a tiny slice of sound. What else is happening all around us that we don't perceive? The chosen one feels this. They sense that there's more, even when they can't explain what. We were taught that the world is what we see, and yet many animals can see and hear far more than humans. What they didn't tell you is that reality is created by vibration, not form. Everything you perceive is being interpreted by a neurological system, trained to see only what the Matrix wants you to see. Breaking free from this programmed vision takes more than study. It requires vibrational elevation, and only the awakened can do that. If you recognize the Matrix and already feel you can break free from it, comment, "I am in the world, but I am not of this world." There's a dangerous myth that romanticizes reincarnation as a sign of evolution. But what if it's exactly the opposite? If you're returning to the game in this dimension, it means you're still bound by its rules. The Matrix uses the cycle of reincarnation as the final stage of imprisonment, making you live an entire life with a meaning disconnected from the divine plan. When a soul dies without having unified with the All, It's drawn, either by choice or force, into the reincarnation tunnel, and once it crosses, everything is forgotten. Memory is erased, consciousness resets, and the cycle begins again. The erasure of memory between lives is not natural. It's imposed, and the Matrix exploits it. Imagine how much you would evolve if you remembered every past experience. If you knew where you fell, what you overcame. That's the reality in other planes, where more evolved beings live with full awareness. But the Matrix needs you to stay trapped, confused, needy, and vulnerable. Only then will you come back to play the game again, asking for guidance, searching for meaning, accepting new rules without questioning. Many believe coming back is a gift, but for the chosen ones, the mission is to end the cycle of reincarnations, not to repeat it once more. A soul may choose to return, but only for a specific mission. Most reincarnations happen because the being didn't fulfill their purpose, didn't learn what they were meant to, didn't unify with the all. They die completely unaware of how the universe works. And so, they must return to try again. Enlightenment doesn't come from returning. It comes from awakening while you're still here. Because now is the only moment where the prison can be seen and broken. Waiting for the next life is the same as surrendering to the trap. The Matrix knows. If you believe salvation comes after death, you'll live your present without courage. That's the perfect bait. The promise of a future paradise keeps billions imprisoned in passive existence. But those who connect to the all no longer need to die to transcend. True liberation happens in life. Now we reach the turning point. Not everyone here passively accepts that they belong to the Matrix. Some came from outside. They are consciousnesses who accepted the challenge of incarnating in this dense plane to fulfill a real mission. But to do so, they had to forget who they truly are, and only through awakening would they be able to remember. These are the chosen ones, the ones who walk in the world but vibrate above it. Chosen ones carry unique marks. They sense what hasn't been said. They feel things before they happen. They are guided by an inner compass that defies logic and disrupts the system. They don't fit in because they weren't meant to. They came to transform the status quo and set others free. But the power they carry only activates once they remember who they are. That remembering is not rational, it's vibrational. A chosen one begins to awaken when the structures around them stop making sense, when the world's models of success trigger rejection, and the search for something deeper becomes urgent. This isn't a crisis, it's a sign. It's the call. The Matrix feels this shift and responds with resistance. But a soul that has awakened can no longer be silenced. Many of these beings have stellar origins, multi-dimensional consciousness, and resonance with cosmic cycles. They feel aligned with the elements, with silence, with ancestral wisdom. And even if they can't explain everything, they know that they know, and they recognize truth when they hear it. The connection to the all pulses strongly within them, and because of that, their mere presence begins to deprogram everything around them. If you want to understand more about the key traits of a chosen one, and if you carry any of them, check the pinned comment for a link to another video where I go deeper into this topic. The exit process. How to liberate yourself from the Matrix. Have you ever noticed how your very presence can make others uncomfortable? In certain places, all it takes is for you to show up, and the atmosphere changes. Some people pull away, others act strangely, resist you, or even admire you. This isn't personal. It's energetic. A chosen one carries a vibration that destabilizes the Matrix's programming. Your frequency simply isn't compatible with the collective sleep state. Animals and children, on the other hand, sense you with purity. They approach you, observe you in silence, or calm down when you're near. They haven't yet been contaminated by layers of ego. They feel your vibration directly. It's the silent recognition of someone who is still connected to the all. It's as if they're saying, "We know what you are." But not everyone will handle that well. When a chosen one awakens, their energy starts to trigger people around them. Your light brings other people's shadows to the surface. Your clarity exposes the illusions they still live in, and because of that, some will avoid you, others will mock you, and some will try to diminish or attack you. Not because they understand you, but because they can't yet face what you represent. When a chosen one goes through the process of unifying with the all, they become a mirror of what's possible. Their very existence activates seeds in those who are ready. That's why truly awakened beings don't need to convince anyone. Their vibration already does the work. The Matrix fears this kind of silent influence because it spreads. And once it spreads, it can't be contained. Jesus Christ, for example, attracted crowds not only because his words sparked curiosity, but because his energy, his vibrational field, was so massive that people felt an intuitive pull toward him. Enlightenment is when your presence becomes a portal, and that happens effortlessly. No stage, no marketing, just being. That's why every awakened chosen one becomes a rupture point in the collective programming, one that influences millions. The Matrix only survives because many still vibrate in alignment with it. But it takes just a critical mass of awakened beings, and the entire system collapses. Many people search for a way out of the Matrix by studying, debating, or chasing complex explanations. But here's the truth. You don't think freedom, you vibrate it. The exit isn't found through more theories, but through a deep elevation of your frequency. The code that breaks the system isn't intellectual, it's energetic. What the Matrix fears most is a being who vibrates in peace, coherence, and awareness. Because such a being becomes invisible to the mechanisms of control. Not because they run away, but because they vibrate beyond the system's reach. The Matrix operates on low frequencies: fear, guilt, anger, attachment, envy, control. When you raise your vibrational field, you exit the system's radar. Raising your frequency isn't about fake positivity. It's about presence, truth, and alignment. It's living with energetic integrity, where what you think, feel, and do are in harmony. And for every being who reaches that state, a crack opens in the Matrix, because it doesn't know how to deal with someone who doesn't react, doesn't fear, and doesn't get distracted. There are two paths to stay in this state: energetic minimalism, where you remove excess, noise, and distraction, and vibrational maximalism, where you use your consciousness to co-create new realities and evolve. Both paths work. The first clears the field, removing the Matrix's impositions and creating internal space to be filled by the presence of the all. The second expands the field. You may seem to be playing the game to others, but now you're doing it on your own terms. For example, you might pursue financial success, not from ego or a desire for power, but with a spiritual purpose to expand your consciousness and help more people. What matters is that both are conscious choices. The chosen one understands that their frequency is their greatest weapon. By vibrating above the programming, they become untouchable. Not through isolation, but through transcendence. And when that happens, reality begins to bend. Chaos moves away, doors open, intuition intensifies. Because the Matrix can only imprison those who still believe in it. Now that you understand how the Matrix operates, you're ready for the final secret. You don't just have to escape the prison. You can hack the system from the inside out. The greatest power of the Chosen One is the ability to co-create. And this happens when the mind aligns with the heart, and both merge with the all. In that state, you no longer react to reality. You generate reality. Conscious manifestation isn't magic or superstition. It's the union of science and spirituality. Reality responds to the dominant frequency you emit consistently. When you desire with clarity, feel with depth, and act with intention, the universe reorganizes its codes around you. Everything is moldable energy, and you are the architect. In a previous video, I talked about how the Matrix implants beliefs like money and spirituality don't mix. Many people believe that someone who is spiritual can't be wealthy, and vice versa. But when a chosen one becomes a conscious co-creator, they choose the reality they want to live in. And yes, they can choose prosperity to show the world it's possible. When you merge with the all, you express love, because the all is love. And whatever you choose to do, it will be driven by a benevolent intention to help others. This is the highest level of existence within the Matrix. Not escaping it, but transforming it from within. It's when the Chosen One becomes a channel of the all, and every step becomes sacred. Every word a decree, every thought a seed. In this state, there is no more seeking, only creating. And through that, the Matrix no longer has power over you. It doesn't just break, it dissolves. In the pinned comment, I've left the link to a complimentary video where I teach how to talk to the universe, the next step to becoming a conscious co-creator, and finally exiting the Matrix for good. If this truth echoed within you, comment, "I am the awakened purpose." Everyone who comments this final phrase, I'll use my intuition to send you another video your spirit needs to see right now. What you've heard here today, Chosen One, is just the beginning. A subtle remembrance of what you already knew, but had forgotten. From this point on, always remember, it all depends on your frequency. And never forget, you are not here to find a purpose. You are the purpose, experiencing itself. Thank you for making it all the way to the end. That says a lot about your dedication and focus on your spiritual evolution. I hope to see you in the next video. A life of infinite possibilities awaits you.